What's going on, folks? How you doing? This is the kickoff of what's going to be our sprint to the new season. So please make sure you listen to everything that's going on in the podcast here on the Knucklehead Podcast Network, as well as on our live shows. We're just kind of excited to get going, and we're trying to figure out. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of an insight into what's going on. I am the tech expert now of this show, and I am so not qualified to be the tech expert. So sometimes we're just going to have to power through this stuff, and we're going to get it ready for you guys before the season starts, because that's what we do. And football season's coming. Football season's coming. The coaches show on Thursdays. This is the mess around on Fridays. This will be the pick'em show as well as a mess around. So we'll have 3 NFL shows once the season starts. So we're going to get started. So basically, we've just had kind of an off-air conversation about some of the things that are going on as far as OTAs and the OTAs. How important are they, and does it mean a lot with people that don't show up, that are showing up, and how all kinds of writers around the league like to try and say that, this is when great teams are going to go down. And Seahawks, Packers, Patriots, a lot of teams have had these same writers saying the same things over and over again. But I think we all kind of agree that this year might be a little bit different when it comes to one team that has been basically the staple of American sports for 15 years. So I have Mr. Mark Hirsch and Coach Shane McGowan with me now. So, Mr. Hirsch, why is this year different from past years as far as the Patriots really should worry?
Well, one of the things that's going on with the Patriots, and thank you, Chris, for introducing me. One of the things that's going on with the Patriots is they've got a bunch of new pieces on the board. And they come into OTAs, and Tom Brady is not there. And I think that's a serious issue. I was just at a cookout tonight, and I was talking to another guy about the Packers and how they've got all these new pieces that are so exciting. And he looks at me and says, well, it all sounds good on paper, but they got to start to mesh as a team. And really, that's what OTAs are the beginning of. That's when you start to develop the chemistry between the different players on the offense, on the defense. And I think it's very serious when one of your key components is missing from the OTAs, because the job that the team has at this time of the year is to start to mesh and start to get ready for the season. And if your key player is not there, I don't see how you're going to do it.
Well, you know what? You're absolutely correct on that. I mean, like I said, is when you start looking at, and if we're going to directly talk about maybe the Patriots in this way, I mean, you got a brand new, system sort of coming in some ways with receivers and et cetera, guys coming and going. And you know what? Brady needs to be in there with Gronk and the others just to get the timing down. I mean, you can't leave it to the last second. You can't leave things to chance out there. Other teams are doing this, and they know they need to be out there. And to me, I'm finding this. A lot of times, everyone always says about OTAs is, well, you know what? It's more for the rookies, et cetera, et cetera. You got to still bring in the vets to slowly introduce them back into what the heck is going on. And to me, it starts with your leaders. And if your leaders aren't out there, then you're setting a bad example for the rest of the guys too. That's my opinion on this.
Well, real quick, Shane, we have as a mental coach, let me ask you this question, because I think there are some people like, my former Seahawk and now your Raider, Marshawn has never done OTAs in the last, so many years. And there are certain people that aren't going to. If someone is in a contract negotiation, if it's OTAs, you're not technically holding out. You're just like, I'm not going to go accidentally fall on my knee and have a Teddy Bridgewater happen and in my career before I get my next contract. I think those things are understandable because, the O and OTA is optional. However, what I think makes this different, and, just very quickly as a mental coach, why don't you speak on this, is Brady has never missed OTAs, and you have a huge group of new running backs, offensive line, as well as receivers to work with. Mentally and just as a team, how is that different? Because to me, it seems more like I don't want to say a pouting party or something like that, because I think it's irresponsible for me to act like I'm in Brady's mind, but at the same time, like, it seems to be some type of a problem, some type of a message.
Well, and that's exactly what not only yourself but everybody else is saying around the league and the media is that, is this now a power struggle? Is this now saying, hey, you know what? I've had enough of this regime of the Belichick. Things need to change, et cetera, et cetera. And I do believe, like you said before, is that, yeah, you get a guy like, say, Pittsburgh Le'Veon Bell there. I mean, he's like, he wants the franchise tag, so he might skip OTAs. Let's just take that as an example. All right. To me, now you got a bit of a purpose because you want the long-term contract, but inside, a player knows that this is important. It is important to be up there with the rest of your teammates. And again, also being in game condition. You got to be ready. I mean, things happen. And this is what I'm saying is all of a sudden you got all these rookies that are hungry and chomping it, or trades that have come in. Like I said, I could take my Raiders, for example. You look at the tailbacks. Martin is coming in there as a huge upswing of if he can be healthy, he's going to do great. They're slowly bringing Marchand in, daily, but they're not forcing it on him like that. But he is getting in there. He is getting the reps. He is doing certain things. Brady, as a quarterback, and anybody's team with quarterbacks understand that I got to be out there on the ball. I got to be ready to go, because if I'm not, my team is going to struggle. And I know that. So really, I mean, unless he was suspended or something, he should be out there like the rest of his guys.
Well, I agree with you, Shane. I think it's critical. But I think something that Chris alluded to is also a question that is lurking in the background, and that's about whether there's disenchantment with the Belichick regime going on in New England. And I think everybody who reads the sports writers knows that there was an issue with Tom Brady's special trainer. I think his name is Garrow, and he had access to the locker room. I think he was also training Gronk, but he was banned from the facility by Bill Belichick, and I think that this is something that might be the seeds of all this that causes discontent. The players are used to something, especially Tom Brady, and he knows he's important to the team, and he knows it. And he feels disrespected, and he's not happy. And I think this is some of the stuff that Danny Amendola was alluding to after his trade to Miami, that it feels great to be free again. So I think there are some problems over there in the Patriots locker room with the management, with Bill Belichick, and that might very well be the cause of the symptom of Tom Brady sitting out the OTAs. Chris?
No, you're absolutely correct on that one, though. I think it is a huge thing, and you're right. They need to figure out what's going on in that locker room to be successful and to make as they always say, a run for that championship. And right now, you got all these teams that are in their divisions and coming up there saying, "Hey, we're hungrier than you guys right now," and you're demonstrating it by pouting around. So, like I said, that's my take on this with the Patriots and with Brady and Gronk and everybody else. But there is some locker room dysfunction, and they need to get it settled fast. What are you thinking there, Mr. Blaine?
Well, before Blaine comments on that, I think one of the things that you have to realize is maybe the Patriots are taking themselves for granted. They've always been the number one contenders, and they seem to go to Super Bowl after Super Bowl. And I don't think anybody's talking about this, but if you look at all the shakeups that they've had and the players coming in and going out, sure, they've got a couple of key players that they're retaining from the past. More than a couple, they've got some, but I think it wouldn't. I don't think it would be unfair to say that maybe the Patriots are in a rebuilding mode.
And you know the other thing too is what do you also think about the fact of how they benched Butler during the Super Bowl? These guys spoke up about that after as well. You know, they were a little bit miffed at that whole idea that this guy could have been a bit more of a shutdown fella out there, and he's riding the pine. So I think there's a little bit of dissension amongst some of these guys in this as well.
Well, I think you're right, and I think there's a lot of stuff going on there. But what I'm interested in is hearing what somebody who is on a team, who's a fan of a team over there on the East, technically the North, but Baltimore Blaine. What do you think about what's going on in the Patriots locker room?
Well, I think what's going on in the Patriots locker room is that you're seeing the unraveling a bit of the Patriots, the relationship between Belichick and some of the players. Uh, Again, Parcells, I believe it was Parcells that said that a coach's voice is it's hard to hear the same coach's voice after 10 years in the locker room. And what do we have, like 18 for Belichick or something like that? That's what I think is going on. I think it's just time taking over. It's time for either to revamp that team completely, or which is hard to say. I mean, it's hard to fathom with the success they've had, but it's just going to keep getting worse and worse until some of these players are gone, such as Brady and Gronkowski. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, no, I want to jump in real quick. I want to get your I want to get in the middle of this real quick and get your thoughts on one more thing. I want to add something to the pile of what you're talking about. One of the things that makes them so different is all NFL teams, all teams with parity, all teams with salary caps have to kind of rebuild every year or two, and they've been so unique and so successful in how much they win and how they get rid of players before it's time to pay them and just somehow keep coming up with great things. And, you know, everyone knows I'm a Seahawk guy, and you saw Cliff Averill come out, and I'll do my, my PSA of, don't click on stories and don't just read headlines this time of year, because they say things like Cliff Averill said that the Seahawks didn't believe in Pete Carroll after that one play. And if you listen to what he said, there was some doubt because we're supposed to be a running team. And he says it much more, he's more educated about it. He's not educated, excuse me. He's more subtle about it. And it's kind of like, hey, you know what? There might have been a little bit of doubt and there might have been a little bit of something, but, we still believed in this and we still won and we still won playoffs. And it's a lot more subtle than just what the headlines say. So after I put that disclaimer out there saying, hey, don't just go on clickbait, if they're talking about one play, the Patriots, I think the underlying story, besides just the trainer, is the fact that they benched their number one corner and got torched on the outside for nonsense. So, I mean, why don't you visit that, and then we'll pass that around. We'll go back to you, Mr. Blaine, right away, and then we'll go to Hirsch, and then we'll get the mental side from Coach Shane McGowan.
Well, I think the other part of that is that Belichick is not, at least with us, and at least publicly, not coming forth with a good explanation of why Malcolm Butler was on the bench. And apparently he's not coming forth with that information to us, and he's not coming forth with that information to the players. And that's just building up on the problem with Brady's trainer and Gronkowski's trainer that was banned from the facility, supposedly. It's just things piling up on top of each other. I mean, when they had all of these scandals going on, all the controversy with Deflategate and Spygate, they rallied around each other and said, "Us against the world." But now it's infighting going on. And one constant that you had the whole time with Belichick was Brady. They were tight. They seemed to be tight. They seemed to be on the same page. Now you have a rift between Brady and Belichick, supposedly, and that is the start of the small tear that starts the whole thing to collapse.
Well, Baltimore Blaine, that's what you're talking about is really serious. And as to the question of why Malcolm Butler was on the sidelines during the Super Bowl, I have never understood that. I've heard this, I've heard that. I don't have a clue. And it's true, Belichick isn't talking, and I don't think we'll ever know. But what team is going to go into the Super Bowl and have the coach bench one of their most valuable players, lose the game, and then not be sore about it? I think, there's something that's running through almost everybody in that organization that is asking questions. And I think there might be a lack of confidence in Bill Belichick. What do you think about that, Mr. Mental Coach?
Well, actually, real quick before the mental coach jumps on, what I want to add on to that is, I think what both these guys have said is absolutely correct. And there is something like, let's look at the Broncos a couple of years ago, right? When you see Peyton Manning start to decline, they try to jump in that window and they try to do something. Or you see the Rams right now where they're trying to throw in some players and do something. It's a gradual up or a gradual down, or we can argue about it during the season. The Seahawks, they're on the way down and they're getting rid of players and things. But this feels like not a gradual like rebuilding or gradual down. This feels like someone just hit a cliff. So, I just wanted to add that on before we got your take on the same subject.
Yeah, well, no, you're absolutely correct. I mean, like I said, is that nobody knows exactly what the heck happened in that Super Bowl and why the benching happened and everything like that. But you got to understand is the ripple effect it has with the players. And you come into a new season and you're still thinking about that going, look, we got to the Super Bowl. We had some of the best talent that wasn't able to play that could have helped us. Why is this happening? We've got a defensive coordinator coach who's gone. Why are people looking to jump ship in some ways? So that's a huge thing too. You know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff that transpired throughout the season there in that entire Patriots organization, from coaches not taking jobs to coaches taking jobs to scandals with the coach that did take a job too. So I mean, there's a lot of things happening, and I just think that it's in you. We've mentioned earlier is they are going to have to start going into a rebuilding year, not a reset, but a rebuilding year. And you look at it too, in some ways, is that who do they have to back up Brady if he goes down as well? You got to look. You got rid of your top guy to San Fran, who's doing an amazing job, who's happy, making big bucks. He's got a team that wants him, and now you got Brady who's by himself with whoever they can bring in too. So I think there's a lot of unanswered questions in that organization. And I think it's going to have to come up and it's going to have to get figured out real fast because, like I said, these guys are not going to be going anywhere. And if you got unhappy players, you are not going to perform at all. And it's going to be a real pie in the face for Belichick and the rest of that team.
Well, I just wonder what it would be like to be a new guy coming into that team and seeing all this stuff going on and wondering about Malcolm Butler. And, people forget quickly. And, the story of the Patriots has been under Belichick, success. But now it doesn't look so good. And I think everybody's forgotten about all that. And what they're thinking about is what went wrong last time and what's still going wrong now. Why doesn't he have the confidence of his players anymore? And I think that's what it is. It's a crisis of confidence. Not only is he trying to control things too much by, telling the trainers they can't come into the facility and all that kind of stuff and aggravating some of his star players, keeping Malcolm Butler out, who knows what else. And you got to remember there's a triangle here. There's not only Belichick and Brady, but you got the owner too.
So then, Mr. Hirsch, do you think that it's time for Belichick to maybe look at stepping down? What do you guys think about that?
Well, you know what? I don't think he's going to have a choice at some point, especially if they fall flat on their face this year. And I think it's a decided possibility unless they start to rally somehow. So, yeah, I think maybe Coach Belichick's run has come to its end. I mean, there's other famous teams that have kept coaches around too long. and I'm not going to mention the Steelers, but it's something that it's something that can happen.
No, and you know what? But that's a huge thing, and I kind of have talked to a few people within the last few weeks about that. Is that, are we now looking at a regime change? Are we now looking at what McDaniel or whatever taking over? Is that what we finally are grooming him for? Is this the year where he's going to do that? After Belichick has finally played his last games out here this season, I don't know, but I mean, if you've got a disgruntled team, you then need to make the changes. And I think this is where Kraft is going to have to step in and kind of look at that in some ways too.
All right, so Blaine, and good job, Mr. Hirsch, for the Chuck Noll thing is something we've talked about on a lot of our shows about. And for those
Yeah,
of you who are new to the show, we talked about Chuck Noll was fantastic in the 70s, but did he coach too long and let his record in the 80s, go too far? So, you as someone who's in the East and who is in the AFC as a Baltimore fan, Blaine, I mean, what's going on? Is this the cliff, or is this just what's going on?
I just let these two guys, these two experts on our show just come right around and circle the wagons around exactly the fact that I was going to come back on. We forget. I mean, not that we forget, but we didn't mention the Garofalo thing. Actually, Coach, you alluded to it as well. The whole thing with the Garoppolo trade sent a sour message, or started. I think this whole thing, this whole fissure between Brady and Belichick, but it also caused a question about Kraft and Belichick. My point is, I think you guys are right. I think this is a retooling. And again, it's weird because you don't usually see this with a dynasty, but we don't usually have dynasties anymore in the NFL. But it's come to the point where I think that it's going to be a goodbye Belichick and a new coach to bring in McDaniels. And I think that was the writing on the wall when McDaniels turned down the Indy job and got a raise from Kraft. And I think Belichick, they all, I believe that Belichick has already given the nod that he's going to be leaving. It just hasn't come out yet. And yes, we're going to see a retooling of this franchise. Not necessarily a rebuild, but they need a new voice in that head coach position. Somebody that the players trust, because you're hearing also about how much it's not, nobody's having fun playing for the Patriots. You're hearing this from multiple players leaving the organization. And so that's the message that's coming out now. That's the message that's resonating around the league. It's not fun to play for the Patriots. So why go there? Well, you get a Super Bowl ring. Yeah, but I don't know. A lot of dysfunction going on there now. I think we're going to see a new coach.
Yeah, I think things are done. So I want to ask a quick lightning question. We're going to go Shane, Hirsch, Baltimore, Blaine. If you were Belichick and you have outlasted, I mean, I think even in what people are calling like the end of this whatever, they're in 4 of the last 5 AFC championship games. I mean, is it really even, if you're Belichick, like, is it worth it to try for your legacy to try and like restart this thing? So why don't we go once again, we'll go Shane, Hirsch, and then Blaine. I mean, if you were Belichick, would you want to try and just, spike the football or just be done?
Well, if Belichick, it's not if I'm Belichick, it's what is Belichick. Belichick will spike the football, and you got to look at the people that he's been under. I mean, when you think about it, with Parcells, who's groomed him for how many years before that, and did everything, Belichick is going to ride it out and do whatever. But I think he's going to understand, just like anything else, is that if this season sucks and they don't do anything right, it doesn't go their way, yeah, he's going to be gone. There's no question about that. I think that's the writing on the wall for him in that way. That's just my personal opinion, and I think Crafton will make that change, and I think they're all prepared for it. But I just think that he's going to go out. If he's going to go out, it's on his terms of trying to do the best he can. But I just don't think it's going to happen for him.
Well, I think that you talk about the season. If the season sucks, and I think for the Patriots, not winning the division is going to be seen as a catastrophe. And I'm not even sure that McDaniels is the right guy. I don't see Belichick stepping down now, not till the end of the season. And the question is how dispirited is the team going to be and how much harm is going to be done before he does. And then McDaniels, who's the guy that's been working all these years with Belichick, is that really regime change or not? I think the Patriots are in decline. I don't think they've gone over the cliff. But, yeah, there's a lot of questions there. So my answer is no, he's not going to resign, at least until the year's over, and add that I'm not sure that McDaniels is going to do any better.
I think you hit on a couple of good points there, Mark. I do think he's going to resign, though, but I don't think he's not going to resign before the season's over. Again, I think that was already predetermined. Shane, going back to something you said about Belichick spiking the ball, he's not going to change. He's the same Belichick he was when he came to the Patriots. He's not going to change his message. I think that he will walk away from it. If he's still hungry for football, he's going to start somewhere else, pick up somewhere else, and change the culture of that team or try to mold it into what he wants. It's going to be a team that's probably close to the same philosophy as his. I can't imagine he wants to start all over again and try and just change it, from something that's more extreme than he is. But I wouldn't be surprised to see him in Cleveland.
What?
I was going to say Baltimore.
No.
What? I think we're too late. I think we're too late on the podcast. I think.
Well, wait, hold on. What do you? Hold on, Chris.
I was thinking Giants.
Yeah, but Chris, what about who's the coach of the Browns?
But you do remember who the coach was that started your whole Baltimore dynasty and who got
What a way to end your career! What a way to end your career! Full circle, baby.
I'll let Coach Shane answer that, but I totally disagree with all of you guys. So I'll tell you guys why. Why.
I just throw it out there.
Why don't you answer? I know, and your educated opinion is totally beloved and blessed. And that's why we love you on here. But I can't believe that that really took me by surprise. So Shane, why don't you go ahead and answer what these guys just said, and then I want to because I'm also like. I had the mute button on when Shane said some things that I would have made the same kind of, expletive reaction to. I disagree with almost everything everyone said except for Hirsch. So go ahead, Shane, answer, and then I'm gonna tell you guys why you're all right.
I'm in trouble.
Oh, if he's agreeing with you, oh my goodness. Anyways, I don't know if Belichick will go back to Cleveland or anything like that, but I do think that in some ways, just like how Parcells went off to Dallas and everywhere, Jets, blah blah blah, I could see Belichick looking at something because you know what, there are teams out there that are going to say, I could use his knowledge, I can use him. And it's going to depend how this season goes. It's going to depend how this entire year goes and what team is bottoming out and if his team is also part of that. And you're right when you guys talked about not winning the conference and everything like this, or even getting close to it maybe, I can see him then looking to say, okay, well, what's my next option? But I do think he'd probably take a little bit of time off in this too, though. I think he'd have to actually regroup himself too. If this doesn't go the way he wants it to do, because he's not going to change in many ways. He's that sergeant, man. He's going to drive that team the way he feels it needs to be driven. And if you've got resentment from Brady and the rest of them, then you're going to be in trouble.
All right. So I'm going to actually give research-based answers as opposed to crazy Belichick's going back to Cleveland answers. No, honestly,
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, honestly, I just don't see it because I understand the fact that, he's always going to be correlated with Parcells because he is a Parcells disciple. But at this point, he has achieved more than Parcells ever wanted to in a million years. The two careers are not even parallel. I think that's what people forget is he has quadrupled Parcells. And it's a perfect storm of a weak division, of a great team, of the most unbelievable quarterback situation. It's a perfect storm of things that when it ends, there is absolutely nothing he could do. Like, why? He's got his boat. He takes his off seasons off. I think what you're seeing now is like, I don't want this knucklehead trainer causing me problems. Get the F out. I don't want some kid who's a corner. Yeah, you're a corner, but this is my team. Get out. Like, you're not playing. And I think it's just kind of like he's doing some things. And if you look in the one thing that he did do as a private guy, and I don't know why it's not bigger and more popular, is if you go and look online, he actually let NFL Films follow him around for a whole year. And I don't understand why it's not the most, kills all of the what's it called, the one that they're doing with the Cleveland Browns this year, the
Hard Knocks.
The Hard Knocks. Yeah, this is like 50 times more educational than Hard Knocks. He let the cameras follow him around for an entire year, and in that documentary, they talked to the owner, they talked to him, and he says, I know exactly when I'm going to retire. And Kraft says, I know exactly when Bill's going to retire. And I can't believe it's going to be when I leave the Patriots and then go start a new job with the Browns. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. I think that's a little bit crazy. So I'm going to end that with my spike of the ball, because if not, it's going to be one more thing from Mr. Blaine over there. That's my punch back. Oh,
I'm the guy that has one more thing.
Okay. Get one more thing.
Yeah.
Sorry, I see your responses coming in.
I think what we're going to see is what I like to refer to as the Brett Favre syndrome, affecting coaches now.
Surprise.
That's where I was going.
Can't give it up.
That's where I was going.
So maybe Belichick is going to go to the Jets. Who knows?
Nice.
Nah, I see different.
Coaches have the same problem at times. They just can't walk away. Look at what happened with Dean Pease when he retired from the Ravens this year. He said he was going to retire, spend time with his grandkids and his family, and then within 3 months he was signing on with the Tennessee Titans as a defensive coordinator.
Okay, real quick, Shane.
How much did they offer him?
Yeah, real quick, Shane. Before you jump in on this, you guys are talking about Dean Pease and a quarterback who threw a bunch of interceptions and won one Super Bowl versus a guy who's gone to the playoffs more than anyone, gone to more championship games, won more Super Bowls, gone to more Super Bowls. I mean, you guys are talking about like something else to prove.
You get stuck in the stats.
Yeah, Chris.
This is not
no,
what
it's not stats. There's no one except for Popovich.
This is not what this is about. That's not what this is about. What makes these guys do this? What makes these guys do this is that there's something in their blood that makes them competitive and makes them want to be doing what they do and makes them not want to quit.
I agree with that. But when you get rid of generations and generations of players and still win, he is on a pedestal of his own, and he's still going 16 years. There's no one in sports that's even on the same planet.
Chris, you're thinking cerebrally.
I don't think
stats. I don't think he
cares about that.
I don't think he cares about that.
What motivates him is he likes to go in there. He likes to work every day. He likes to tell his players what to do. He likes to win. It's about what he likes to do. It's not what his accomplishments are. He's not going to have anything left if he goes and sits on his boat.
Yeah, I think the coach should chime in.
Done. So we agree. We disagree on that point.
Let's let the coach. Hey, wait a minute, exactly. Chris. Let the coach. Let's Shane.
I'm totally agreeing with that. Shane, throw the gavel down. Let's end this show tonight. And fantastic. We got 3 subjects out of the way. we had some great debate. So
you brought me in.
Shane, Coach Shane, why don't you give us the final, and then we're going to give you guys information on where to find us. So Shane, solve the argument for us. Even though if you don't agree with me, you're wrong.
You know what? Look at.
Don't you dare agree with him.
Oh man. He's gonna block me though. I won't come on air anymore. You know what? Here's the thing: is I'm gonna say this is that there's kind of a combination of everything that all of you guys have said in many, many ways when it comes to this. Is that you're right? Belichick, he likes that. He likes that energy that he can bring. He wants to win. He wants to keep fighting out there. There's no question about it. Now, sometimes some of these guys also look and say, you know what? Maybe I can do this in another team and get myself another Super Bowl with a different team as well. So there's a lot of different things that go into this. There's no question about that. But the achievements that he's done, you're absolutely correct there, Chris, on that. Is that's just phenomenal. I mean, it's absolutely crazy on everything that he's done and has surpassed in many, many ways. And that you could stop and say, well, okay, but if you've got all this, why are you continuing on? It's the hunger that he still has inside of him and the fight that he feels that with the right personnel and people, he can make it and go a little bit higher to another level and get another championship with another team too, just to kind of spike a lot of people. And I think that's what I see out of Belichick. That to me is his type of personality.
So I'd say I win.
Oh, come on, man. You didn't win.
No, I don't think so.
I just said it's all of us.
I think I won. I'll tell you what. Very quickly. Yeah, that's why we love fighting a little bit. So right now, if you're listening to this show, you're going to hear us. This is going to be put out as a package. We have our live Tuesday show, which is being re-recorded and repackaged and put out there. And this is the last of the mess around shows before the new facelift, which is going to come in 2 weeks. We will have a couple of more shows, but you're going to see a new music, new production style, new everything coming in 2 weeks. So we appreciate all you guys. You're also going to have a fantasy show coming in a month or two. We have a lot of great things. So this is for the fans, the real fans, the new fans, and all the guys that have supported us. I did want to talk a little bit about Brandon Marshall and Dez, but I think we're going to maybe actually, you know what? We got a couple of seconds real quick. I'm just going to ask Hirsch, do you want Dez on your team? And I'm going to also tell Blaine that he turned down the Ravens offer.
Well,
thankfully,
I'll tell you what I'm thinking about Dez right now is I'm wondering if anybody even really wants him because he's out there. There's plenty of teams that could use a guy that is a great wide receiver. But why aren't they perceiving him like that? Why aren't they taking him? I mean, the thing with the rumors about the Packers, don't even get me started. Because the talk around Green Bay was that Aaron Rodgers was all mad because nobody's talking to him when they let Jordy go. And then about this Dez thing, they said that Aaron Rodgers wasn't too hot on it, so they decided to take a pass. And I don't know if that's true or not, but they need to make up their minds whether Aaron Rodgers is telling them what to do or not. As far as Dez goes, the last thing I heard was he's checking out San Francisco, but he's checked out a lot of places and nobody has snapped him up, and I wonder why. That was my 5 seconds, Coach.
Blaine,
is it my turn?
Blaine, quick.
I'm glad Dez turned down the Ravens. By the way, I think Dez is in a spot where teams are getting ready for the season. Their payroll their cap space has been allocated. And he wants a 1-year contract. So, yeah, give him a 1-year contract. But is he going to whine and cry like a baby when he doesn't get the number of receptions that he thinks he should be getting? So I think, by the fact that he turned down the Ravens, it just shows a sign of more of that Dez wanting to be a prima donna, saying where he's going to go and, trying to determine that he's going to have more say than they want him to have.
So real quick, Coach Shane, and then we'll get out of here. So I think what they both said is correct, which is why, I'm going to give a pat on the back to my Seahawks is they gave Brandon Marshall we need some hands. You're a veteran who can, partake, give some wisdom. You're working for a 1-year contract that you don't really get most of unless you actually play like they did for T.O. when they cut him in the preseason. But he still gets a chance to come in, teach some kids, and if it works out, it works out, and it seems like a win-win for the Hawks. and Dez only wants to be signed on as a star. So I mean, give me a quick thought on teams, players, who's doing it right, who's doing it wrong, and then we're gonna get out of here.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely correct. If Dez wants to be the number one guy, I mean, it's going to be hard, and especially with the salary and everything like that. So really, you got to find it. It's going to have to come down to who gets injured during the season. Right now, that I think you might get some problems. Then he might be able to sign on, but I don't think it's going to be nearly the money that he's asking for. If somebody does, well, they're going to take a big chance. But Seattle, I think, is doing it right. I think they're doing it the right way. You bring a guy in that to help mentor. And I think that's what Dez should be doing too, is mentoring. If you can do that, you can make something happen. And you're right. Will it work for him? Possibly. If you got to come in with that great attitude and everybody wants in that locker room, it's going to make a big difference. So I do think that it's a good win-win in many ways.
All right, folks. Well, thank you so much for being on here. Make sure you give us an email at knuckleheadpods@gmail.com, and you can find us on Twitter and Facebook at knuckpods, as well as Spreaker.com/knuckpods. And this is more of our mess around style, and we're looking forward to it. In a couple of weeks, we're going to start doing the divisional breakdown on our live show, and then we have some special guests and some new people coming in for the Coaches Show, which is with Shane McGowan here on the same network on every Thursday. Shane is the host, and we're going to have a variety of different coaches that are going to come in and join him, as well as our Fridays show. We'll have the Pick'em, and we're also going to have different versions of this mess around. So thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you guys soon.